Hello, good morning. Hopefully this is all working. We may never know. I could click the link and find out by, opening the video and then hearing myself. Who knows? Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Hello. It worked. Oh my gosh. Right. How does this work? Yeah, I press buttons and then games appear on the screen. I think that's how it works. Oh, I have to actually put the mouse cursor in the game window because I'm rubbish, and I have to steer while not trying to move my keyboard at the same time. Good morning, everyone. How is everyone? Have everyone had a good weekend? Which track is this? A05. Okay. This is one of the stock tracks. So, welcome to me playing a game badly. This is TrackMania 2 Stadium, which I picked up for, I think, about £4. It was not expensive. It's not a modern game. It's been around for years. But as I understand it, the Linux Gamecast people play it. And that then infected Wimpy playing it, and Yannick, and they set up this server. So we have a little server, and the reason why we play on this server is because everyone else is really, really good at this game, and we're not. And so we wanted somewhere we could play and not get absolutely spanked every time we race. You can tell the difference between our capabilities. Hey, thank you, Mihol. Welcome. You can tell the difference between us and the rest of the world. If you look at the leaderboard on the right-hand side of the screen is the local leaderboard for this server. And so that's all of us. And because it's a password-protected server, not everyone, can join and smash our scores. However, go and look over on the left-hand side of the screen, and you'll see what everyone else in the rest of the world who's played this for 10 years and is really good at it manages to do. And you'll see much faster lap times. Although I'm getting some personal bests here. I mean, it's not a particularly arduous track. It's a pretty straight line all the way around. Yes, there are corners, but you stay in the middle of the track and you're all right. So I don't know what the top one here is, like 57.7 seconds. That's one of Yannick's times. All over the place. And the top score on the other side is like 5 seconds. Oh, you idiot. It's like 5 seconds faster. Hey, ye dollars. Hello, hello, hello to you too. So, there's 5 seconds difference between the fastest lap here and the fastest lap in the rest of the world. So you can tell we're not that good. Yeah, we're all right, but we're not that good. So there's a little advert down the bottom of the screen for Wimpy's World. So my good friend Martin Wimpress and Yannick, the French guy who lives in Switzerland, they set this server up, and they did. I think that was more fun than actually playing the game for them. With nerds, it's not so much about the destination, but the journey. And the nerd journey of setting up a TM Nations... TM2 Studio Stadium. God, I can't even get the bloody name right. The journey of setting it up and writing scripts to manage it and deploy it and all that kind of stuff, and integrating everything together so that our server, their server, sends the high scores, the fast track times to this Dedimania central server. I think that was more enjoyable, although it is obviously enjoyable to race as well. Oh my god, I'm not doing very good here. So my height, as fastest, is 1 minute around this track. 1 minute. And French guy is Yannick, and he's 3 seconds faster than me. And then 5 seconds faster than that is like the top one. Hey, Psycho, welcome back. Nice to see you. How you doing? So it's Monday, and hope everyone had a good weekend. I had the family over yesterday, and by family I mean the in-laws, and cooked a wonderful traditional British roast dinner, which was delicious. We did roast beef. I realise that's I think that's a slur that people use about the British. Roast beefs, by the French, which is fair because we do eat roast beef. Yeah, all the usual accoutrements, loads of vegetables. I do find it quite a relaxing way to spend a Sunday is cooking. It's nice to get away from the computers. I mean, I like spending time in front of a computer, but sometimes I like eating, and eating nice food is good. So what's this track? A05. So this is one of the bass tracks that you get with TrackMania. I saw an interesting tweet. Someone sent me a link to it. Oh man, that was terrible. I should have let it roll over the line. There is an account called Ubuntu Friends, and they've tweeted talking about reviving the Ubuntu podcast, asking if people want to get involved, which is interesting. I think they're asking for volunteers, and they want a new English language, specifically an English language one, because there's already the Portuguese Ubuntu podcast, and there was for a while one in Mexico as well. But the English language one, and originally there was like 3 English language Ubuntu podcasts, and then people moved on to other things, as is the way when people volunteer for something. After a while they move on and do something else. And so some people moved on. And we did it for, I think, 13 years, Ubuntu podcast in the UK. And so the Ubuntu Friends Twitter account, which is run by some people in the Ubuntu community, are looking for people. So yeah, look out for that. Maybe someone will start a new UK or US or other, international English language Ubuntu podcast. Who knows? I wish them luck. You kind of need to be quite dedicated to do a podcast. What's this track? Oh yes. It's weird having grass. I mean, the whole concept of this thing is just weird. Oh, I remember this track. Yes, I like this one. Get a good boost up here, and then there's a sharp corner, and then back down the hill. Try not to clip that. I think that's the first time I've ever hit that. I hit everything else, obviously. Boom. So I imagine most of the Americans, I mean, they're probably not awake yet, but I imagine most of the Americans are not going to be working today because it's President's Day. I don't know what they celebrate on President's Day. What is the point of President's Day? I should look it up. I should look it up and then know the cultural importance of President's Day in the USA, but I don't know. I have no idea. Company I work at the moment, I say at the moment, the company I work at, not like I'm planning on leaving, they tend to shut down on American holidays, which is interesting. Well, not shut down, but everyone in America is on vacation today, so I'll work after this, and we'll have no meetings with any Americans, which is nice. Nice, just not having any meetings. I think it's a good idea to try and rein in sometimes it's easy to like schedule a whole bunch of meetings in your calendar, and then you find your calendar is chock full of meetings with no purpose or meetings with no agenda. I try to rein in that kind of stuff because it interrupts the day, and you just don't have time to do anything useful because you're just constantly preparing for the next meeting or doing whatever the outcomes of the previous meeting are. I was like, ugh. There's got to be a better way to do it. We try and encourage people to have a conversation on Slack rather than have a meeting about something, or have very short meetings. I've set the default for mine in Google Calendar to like 25 minutes, so it doesn't. So I try and keep them short if possible. But none today. Woohoo! So I'm going to be going through all of these tracks, and then there's going to be the weird tracks that Yannick and Big Pod have made, and Luke's tracks. And a couple of them are ludicrous. They're very long and quite tricky. Like jumps that you go over, and immediately after the jump there's a turn or something that you end up jumping over the turn, throwing yourself off the track. So you have to kind of you have to go around slowly first and try and memorize the layout of the track. I mean, that's the same for every track, but some of these you could just go flat out. I find it's quite... the reason I quite like this game is because you could just dip into it. I'm quite a fan of games you can just dip into and just have a quick play, and then when you're finished you just close the window and you're done. It's not like something where you have to save your game or save your progress or get to a certain checkpoint or anything like that. It's just literally start the game, grab the controller, go for a drive, and then when you're finished, shut it down. There's some games that I've spent far too many hours on. Rust is one. Far too many hours on Rust. 700-800 hours? I don't know. Look up my Steam account. It's PopeyDC. Speaking of Popey, I set myself up a new website. I keep seeing people on TikTok and all over the place on socials seem to be fond of this website called Linktree, where there's just a list of all links to their socials and their online store and their YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff. These things come and go. I've seen them before. There was one called About.me years ago, like 6 maybe plus years ago, and you'd sign in and then you'd get the basics of a web page, and you put a photo, and you just put it's just like a landing page for you as a person. And you can link to your WordPress site, you can link to your YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff, right? And there's been a few of them, but right now, I think the popular one is Linktree. And I guess it's popular because people using modern social media, there's a limited number of characters you can put in your profile name and a limited number of links you can put. You can often only put one link in your profile. So unlike a YouTube channel where it lets you add as many links as you like to external off-site places, your profiles, with like TikTok and Twitter, you've got one field for a link, and so people are putting a link to a link tree, and then from there it's like a bunch of links, big buttons. And I didn't want to do that. I don't like the idea. I tried the About.me. In fact, if you go to About.me/Popey, you will almost certainly find an old photo of me from 10 years ago and a bunch of links that I added there as like a boilerplate. And I think I linked to it from my Twitter profile at some point in the past. But it's just, I don't like the idea that it's hosted by somebody else. So I made my own. So I created Popey.me. I registered a domain. No, is it Popey.me? Yeah, it is. Popey.me. And in fact, I had that domain before. I had it years ago, and I let it lapse, and I got it back again this month. So if you go to Popey.me, it's basically just, you know, a picture of my fat face and a bunch of links to like GitHub and YouTube and Twitter and all that. So if anyone's ever like, how do I get in contact with Popey? Well, you just go to popey.me and it's all there. However you want to get in contact. There you go. popey.me. And I made the website with something called Hugo, which is a static site generator. And yeah, it's quite easy to do. I found a theme. Just do an internet search for Hugo themes. You'll find a ton of themes that you can use with Hugo. And all you do is you just like download the theme and dump it in a directory, edit a couple of config files, and you are done. And you've got a themed website. So yeah, I used some like basic boilerplate landing page theme that somebody else had made. Added a bunch of links, and it was literally just editing a config file and putting my headshot image in there, and then generating the page, and then uploading it to my web host. Done. That was it. Most of my other Hugo sites, I put the source code on GitHub, so that if I'm going to change them, or if people notice spelling mistakes or whatever, they can do an issue or a pull request on GitHub. And people have done that. I've got a couple of websites. My popey.com blog is on GitHub. And I've got a website called Make a Linux App. And they're both in GitHub. And so sometimes people do give me pull requests or issues, you know, where there's typos or, hey, I think you should do this. But this one, popey.me, is almost never going to change. My rationale was, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to create a GitHub project and check it all into GitHub. Hello, Mr. Grubbs. How are you doing? It's a bit early for you, isn't it? Also, Happy President's Day. Is that what you say? Or, hey, y'all, have a good President's Day. What do you say when it's President's Day and you say hello to someone? Do you greet them with Happy Presidents? I don't know. Sup, President's Day. So Psycho says, spent 500 hours in Subnautica. It was an alphabet test. Ah, yeah. That's the thing. Goddess, I've got tons of hours in that, but I was a Kickstarter backer, and it was changing, it was iterating, and unfortunately it didn't iterate enough. They barely ever updated it, and then it all fell apart, and oh god, the story behind Goddess is just awful. Peter Molyneux. I've lamented him on here before. So yeah, popey.me. Feedback welcome, although not in the form of issues and pull requests. Now I'm saying it out loud, I really should just put it on GitHub. I should create a project, check in all the Hugo code and the config, and then just push it, and then if someone wants to give me a pull request, they can. Yes, that makes more sense. I will do that. That makerlinux.app as well, I want to reboot at some point. Oh, this is lunacy, this track. It's just insane. Right, okay. So, the trick is to try and get your car pointed in the general direction of down. And it turns out when you press the brake while you're in flight, it levels your car off and fixes your car leveled at that point. It doesn't continue moving in flight. So look, I'll do a go without doing that. So if I just accelerate over here and don't press the brake, the car like flies around all over the place. Right now, if I press brake, all I have to do is just tap it. You see when the brake lights come on, the pitch of the car freezes at that point. Now you'll also note that there's no Dedimania chart on the left-hand side. Apparently this track is too short for a Dedimania, which is weird because there are other tracks which are like 10 seconds long. There's one one of the tracks, which is just a downhill, then a jump, and it's so fast. It's over in like the TrackMania one is 10 seconds, and our fastest is 11 seconds. So there's not a lot in it. Whereas this is just it's longer. Weird. Anyway. Adam says, I think most folks say, sweet, I got the day off work, assuming they get the day off. It's not, man, not everyone gets the day off. Oh dear. It's mostly government employees that have the day off. Okay. Thank you, Low Spec Linux Laptop. That's an excellent name. What's the best Low Spec Linux laptop? Go! Obviously, the answer is ThinkPad. I don't know. Most of my ThinkPads, I say most of, because I have like 15 of them. Most of them don't have Linux on them. And they would be classed today as low spec, because some of them are like ye old Pentiums that run Windows 95. And I'm not about to try and get Linux running on those. There's just no point. I'm never going to use them, because as soon as I launch a browser, they'd run out of memory and they'd be useless. And yeah, okay, well, I could open a text editor and use them for taking notes. I ain't gonna, because I've got like 3 more modern computers for that, and a mobile device, and so it's kind of, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, it's academically interesting, but other people have done that before me. Put Linux on these old machines. I don't need to do that. So I'm not doing that. But I have looked at old laptops for playing old DOS games, and some of the ThinkPads are good for that, but most of them aren't, because they don't have DOS compatible sound cards. And you really want an ad lib for the music and a sound blaster for in-game sound effects. Like if you're going to play something like Wolfenstein or Doom or something, you need ad lib and sound blaster. And most business laptops don't have that, unsurprisingly. So yeah, there's a good 8-bit guy did a video years ago answering the question, what's the best 8-bit? What's the best retro laptop? Because a lot of people don't want to buy a desktop. You could buy a desktop, or you could build a desktop with old parts, like a 486, and put a proper sound card in, like a Sound Blaster or whatever. You could do that, but some people want to play on a laptop because, you know, portability, and nobody wants a giant beige box taking up space. I mean, you know, some of us do, but a lot don't. So he did a video, what's the best one? And I think he came down on a specific resolution. I think it was 800 by 600 maybe, but he found some Compaq models and some Toshiba models, I think, but he settled on, as I recall, a certain resolution and a certain technology of screen, like not the TN panels, but you know, certain type of screen, and it narrowed it down to like 2 models of laptop. It's just like, buy this one or this one. And so I've had an eBay alert for years now for whenever anyone is selling one of those 2 models of laptops, and obviously I never see them because everyone else buys them, or there aren't that many, or people just aren't selling them, you know, who knows. I don't recognize this track at all. What is this? Which one's this? A09, okay. I'm going to have to learn this one. Wow. Yeah. Let's get over the line. Boom. Also, it was changed to Supreme Leader Day. It would be identical but less accepted. Yeah, fair. Hate these tracks, but at least they're short, as Quelt says. Oh, the bumpy one. Yeah, I'm not a super fan of those short tracks, to be honest. They are a bit mental. Ah, bam! Yeah, well done, Alan. Good job, this is just a warm-up. I like this section because it's undercover. Like, I like that. It reminds me of the Monaco tunnel, that bit. I mean, it's not like the Monaco tunnel, because the Monaco tunnel is not covered in dirt, for one, and doesn't have an inflatable castle next to it. Well, it might do. I don't know. You know, these people who live in Monaco, they get all kinds of things. This bit here, it's like the tunnel. Yeah. There's a thing about Iron Man, the bit where it's in Monaco, isn't there? Where they wouldn't let him film. Or they did some guerrilla filming in Monaco and then stitched it together with studio stuff. The bit in Which Iron Man film is it? Is it the second one? The one with the guy with the parrot. Is that the second Iron Man? First one's where he comes back. Or is it 3? Nah, it's got to be the second one, isn't it? Yeah. Ooh. Ascot says I've got a new ThinkPad coming from work today. Ooh. Ooh. What kind of ThinkPad you getting? My work one is a X1 Carbon. 9th generation. So, colloquially, we call it X1 C9. I think that's what people call it. And yeah, it's pretty good. I use it every day, and it is reliable AF. I really like it. It's bugger. It's one of my favourite ThinkPads. It suffers from the same thing that all of these Ultrabooks have, which is non-replaceable battery, limited number of ports. But it's okay. It doesn't matter because mine is mostly a desktop. It sits on my desk at work in a vertical orientation, so the airflow is better. Because I find when they're sat on a desk, if they're in heavy use, the heat... Oh, jeez. Let's restart. The heat has just nowhere to go. And so by putting it vertically with the screen open, it gets a bit more airflow, I think. I don't know, but I think so. You ever pick up a laptop that's been in heavy use, that's been on the desk? Both the laptop and the desk are hot, and that doesn't seem like a good idea to me. So yeah, X1 Carbon, nice laptop. Oh, God. But I'm also a bit of a fan of the chunky ThinkPads as well. The Who'd have thought that Alan's stream would turn to the subject of ThinkPads? It's almost like Alan has only one thing on his mind all the time. Asgrot hoping it doesn't qualify as low spec. Yeah, for work. Getting one delivered today. I hope not to. Low spec laptop says I game on a 4650U APU Lappy. Started channel with a Pentium Lappy. Nice. A 4650U APU. I don't know. I assume that's some kind of AMD thing. Yeah, I'm not up on AMD model numbers. I'm just not into it. I've never actually... don't think I've ever owned an AMD. I think I might have been given an AMD GPU at some point. But I've never actively sought one, bought one, or installed one in a computer. In fact, right now, the only machine in the house with an AMD GPU that's switched on is an HP microserver from a decade ago. It just happens to have an AMD GPU. Well, I guess it's an APU as well. APU just means the CPU and GPU are on the same die, right? It's one of those low power AMD CPUs that have a basic GPU in it, and VGA port. That's it. So yeah, that's the only AMD GPU. I kind of feel, whenever anyone moans about the fact the NVIDIA binary driver is awful and proprietary, it's proprietary software, as Storman would say. Or something like that, anyway. Whenever anyone complains about that and they say, oh, well, the AMD driver's better and the AMD, it's more free. It's like, yeah, but do I really care? Like, I'm playing non-free games on it. It's not like I am the pinnacle of software freedom. I'm not someone to look up to for software freedom. I'm terrible, clearly. Psycho just found a ThinkPad R500 with an Intel thing, 8 gigs of RAM. Holy cow. R500. I've never seen an R500. Wow. Hello, Chris. Digital. Chris Weir Digital. Chris Weir Digital. Is it Chris Weir? I never know. Sorry. Chris Weir. Where? I've heard people pronounce it both ways. I don't think I've ever heard Chris pronounce it. He probably has. He's probably got a video on his channel. Here's how to pronounce my name. I should probably have one of those. People call me Popeye instead of Popey. Like, no, it doesn't have an E on the end. It's Popey. I quite like this one. It's quite quick. It's got a nice indoor section like this. And then a quick shimmy and through a tent. I do like those tent things. They focus the mind. Because you, you go belting towards them. They usually, there's some distance between you and it, right? So you get to see it coming. Like this one here. You can see it coming and then you're like, trying to line it up in the middle. It's like, don't hit the tent. Yeah. T15 Gen 2. Oh, that's the new spangly ThinkPads Squelt is getting. Ooh. Need to find a dock or port replicator. So, I bought, well, the company bought a port replicator or whatever you call it. It was just one of the, like, cheapo, well-known brand. Like, but, you know, one of the, like, popular Chinese brands. Like, I can't remember the names of them. But it was, you know, cheapo. It just plugs in a USB-C port and then it has a whole bunch of ports on it, like Ethernet, SD card slot, USB-A, more USB-C, that kind of thing. I think it had an HDMI port on it as well, so you know you get an extra display port out. And because I have my ThinkPad mounted vertically, this thing, which had a short tail on it, the little dongle, because it has a short tail on it, it kind of dangles in the air, and I didn't like that. It's yeah, if it's on your flat on your desk, and that's the use case it was designed for, is for the laptop to be flat on the desk and for this little dongle thing to be flat on the desk and connected via a very short tail. It was just like a few inches, if that, a few centimeters. Sorry. But instead, I now use an eGPU with it under the desk. The eGPU's under the desk. I had to get a very long Thunderbolt cable because the laptop is on top of the desk and the GPU is underneath the desk. And the Razer Core eGPU comes with the world's shortest USB-C lead, Thunderbolt lead. It's ludicrously short. You have to put the laptop and the eGPU enclosure like almost on top of each other. It's stupid. They're so short. So on Amazon, I bought a long Thunderbolt cable, as recommended by your friend of mine, Martin Wimpress. And I popped that between the laptop and the GPU. And then I have 3 displays plugged into the GPU. There's an NVIDIA 1050 Ti inside the enclosure, and that's the way I work all day every day, and it works really, really well. The only time it screws up is if I do apt upgrade and I get a new NVIDIA driver, and then I really have to reboot because because Ubuntu does apt updates with the system running, and you're currently using a version of the NVIDIA driver. If you get a new version of the NVIDIA driver, from that point onward, like, things get a bit weird. Applications won't open. Windows won't render properly. It just goes a bit stupid, and so you have to kind of reboot, which is kind of annoying. And I actually avoid doing updates, and especially avoid doing updates to the NVIDIA driver because of that. I don't really have many other problems with the NVIDIA driver, just that. Chris has an X270. Oh, that sounds good. I have a T450 and an X220, and the X220 is obviously pinnacle of ThinkPad design. I can't decide if the 220 or the 230 is best. The 220 is great and has the old keyboard, and the 230 had the newer chiclet style. The 220 has the retro original 7-row ThinkPad keyboard, and it's glorious. And I also have some external keyboards that are based on that form factor. It's like someone just ripped the keyboard out of an X220 and put a USB cable on it. And they are glorious because it's an external keyboard that has a touch point on it. So it's just like a laptop ThinkPad X220 keyboard, but on a USB cable. And I bought like 4 of them over the years because they're really useful with Raspberry Pis. Because what you've got is a keyboard and mouse on one USB connector, which, you know, if you're a bit starved of USB ports on a Raspberry Pi, like you need one for a USB key, for example, that's got data on it, and you need another one that's got, I don't know. Well, I've got one here that's got a radio attached to it, and a software-defined radio, a DVB radio, that I use for listening to aeroplanes flying overhead. And so having the mouse and keyboard as just one, it's also just convenient, you know, to have them touch point. I get that most people don't get on with the nipple or touch point or whatever you call it, but I do. I've had them for, I think my first laptop with a touch point would have been in the mid 90s, early 90s. So, you know, I just got used to it then, and I've always loved them. I've had Dells, Toshibas, and ThinkPads with the nipple. I think it's fun how they have different coloured nipples. I think the first Toshiba I had with one was a kind of dark grey 2100 CS. Toshiba 2100 CS. It was glorious. I think it was a 486, maybe. I think it sounds plausible. And it had Windows 3.1 on it when I got it. 3.11. And I upgraded it to Windows 95. Oh my god, it took an entire weekend to upgrade it. Because the hard drive, and it was spinning rust, this is before the days of SSDs. The hard drive in that Toshiba 2100 CS was probably 300 meg, I think. Sounds about right for that era. And I had used a thing in DOS, because it was Windows 3.11, called Drive Space or Double Space. I can't remember which one. One of them was a brand name, because Microsoft were horrible people back then, and they entered into a... This is all written up somewhere. My memory is fuzzy on this, but as I understand it, they wanted to partner with a company that did drive compression. I think it might have been Stacker. And then they backed out. And then they made their own built into Windows. Like, you know, tease someone with the opportunity of a partnership on your product and then completely blow their product out of the water by baking in, you know, it's Microsoft's modus operandi back in the 80s and 90s. It's pretty horrible. But yeah, this Toshiba was the first thing that had a nipple that I had. And yeah, it took all weekend because the drive was compressed, software compressed, with this drive space or double space or whatever it was. It took forever to upgrade to Windows 95. I worked at a tech company at the time, and I had my laptop with me. It was my own personal laptop, and I had it with me in the office. And the guy who sat next to me was a German guy called Klaus. Klaus Blessing. And he had... Oh, shit. See, I remember I talked about hitting the sides of these just now. And he said, oh, I've got the new Windows 95. But he said it in a German accent because he's German. And he said, you can upgrade it. And so I started the upgrade on a Friday lunchtime. It was still chugging away because of this compressed drive. It was uncompressing bits, like overwriting files, recompressing bits, writing it back. And it was so slow. But I was like, well, it's still upgrading and I can't turn the thing off, so I'm just going to leave it here. So I just left it on my desk for the entire weekend. Came back on Monday and it finished. It's pretty amazing. I love that laptop. My name is pronounced Ware, but I don't really mind how it's pronounced. Anything works really. Oh, thank you. Good. Chris's desktop has an AMD CPU and AMD GPU. Runs rather nicely. Yeah, I'm a bit envious. Although, having said that, okay, everything I said earlier about AMD, I'm wrong. I'm playing on an AMD GPU right now. So, the computer I'm currently sat at is an Intel NUC. I keep forgetting that it has an AMD GPU in it. I'm such an idiot. It's because it's a hybrid, you know, cats and dogs living together. It's a really rare processor that has an i7 CPU and a Vega M, whatever that is, AMD GPU on the same die. And there weren't many of them made. I don't know how many computers were made with this technology in, but this is one of them, and it's a Hades Canyon NUC. If you do a search for it, you'll find pictures of it. It's got a blue illuminated skull on the top with red lights for eyes. And so I'm logged into Kubuntu using the Intel GPU. So it's rendering the desktop using the Intel GPU, because it's actually got a GPU on the CPU, like you know, onboard Intel graphics. But it's also got this AMD GPU in the same chip. And this is only warm up, so it's okay. And I had to use some squiggly settings in Steam in order to get this game to work with the AMD GPU, because it's Proton, and you have to kind of coerce DXVK, the Vulkan thing. You have to coerce it to use the right driver and you know, use the right video card. I'll show you the nonsense you have to do to make this work. Look, check this out. Let me switch to Steam. Where's Steam? There it is. Where's my mouse? Come here, mouse. Mouse. There it is. So here, you can see in the properties for this game, launch options. Now that is not needed. The DRI prime, I should get rid of that. DRI prime is what you use if it's not a Proton application, but this is Proton. And that lets you pick which GPU. And there's a tool you can use. Oh, what's it called? Is it Switcheroo? Is it Switcheroo? Yeah, there you go. Switcheroo list. So this has two GPUs. Device 1 is the Intel GPU, and device 0 is the AMD GPU. And you can see it's a Radeon Vega M GPU, and that's device 0. And so for non-Proton, you would use DRI Primary 0. But for this, because it's Proton and it's a Windows game that's running under Proton in Steam, you do that, and DXVK filter name, and then there's a whatever the keyword is for your GPU. For me, for this, it's AMD Vega. You put Vega M. So yeah, that's how the game, this window here, this Steam window, is rendered under the Intel GPU, and this game is rendered on the AMD GPU, which is cool. I think that's quite smart. That's very clever. Took a bit of faffing to figure that out. I didn't realise, like, I thought I was using the AMD GPU for the entire desktop, but it turns out not. And so when I launched the game, and it was, you know, pretty rubbish frame rate. I mean, the GPU in this is in the Intel CPU is okay, but it's like all Intel GPUs. It's a bit rubbish, really. It's good enough for like Stardew Valley, but not for something like this. And so a bit of fiddling and a bit of googling and some help from some friends online, and got it working. The GPU sounds, as Scott says, the eGPU sounds neat, if an expensive way to get more displays. Well, yeah. I mean, actually, I did run 3 displays directly off the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. You don't have to have a GPU, but Intel GPUs are not very good at running 3 displays. Super laggy. I don't know. Maybe they just don't have enough memory on the GPU or whatever, or they're just not very good. But the Intel GPU just could not really cope with running 3 displays, and I really like having 3 displays. I don't have 3 here. I have 3 at work, but not at home. Chris says, has an X220 for work, and it just works wonderfully. Yeah, it does. It's bullet. I mean, when you think how old that is, it's knocking on 10 years old. It's Sandy Bridge CPU. Mine's an i7, but I understand that X220s came in i3, i5, and i7 varieties, and the i5s are very popular with corporates. They got bought in bulk, and so if you look on eBay, you'll often find X220s, and more often than not i5s that you find for sale, which is fine. If you don't need that extra compute power of i7 over i5, which mostly you won't. The other thing to note is the i7 gets hotter than the i5, and the thermal design of the X220 is not very good at getting rid of that heat. Really isn't very good, and it gets quite hot and it overheats. And over the years, I've had a lot of occasions where the X220 would the CPU would get throttled back, and that's kind of annoying. Like, you're in the middle of working and it's like No, I'm going to make it slower. So yeah, that's annoying. But I still got my X220. I've got it dual boot, Windows and Linux. It's got a traditional size hard drive and an M2, SSD. So it's got two SSDs, M2 and what are they called? 7mm or something hard drive SSD. And I've got Linux on the proper SSD and Windows on the M2 drive. I barely ever boot into Windows, but I had to for a couple of things. Adam says, I enjoy hearing about other people's computers. I barely use a computer outside of work these days. Yeah. That's probably a good thing. Chris says, Windows 95 equals peak Windows. Yeah, I can't decide what the best version of Windows is. Like, there's the nostalgia. It's like looking back over what... Oh my god, what is this? Looking back over, your favourite band's best album. Like, if they've been around a long time, then the album that they put out when, you were young and impressionable is probably the best one. Or the one that you spent, most time listening to as a kid, or if you had a car, the one that was always in your car, is your favourite. And Windows 95, I guess, was that age. Yeah, when I was how old was I in 95? I was about 23 in 1995. And I was well into computers, and I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. So, yeah. But if I take a step back and think about, what... I don't know. I think XP was peak Windows. I think XP... Windows 95 was great for, the change it made from Windows 3.11. It was just night and day difference between Windows 3.11 and Windows 95. But Windows XP just seemed to be a lot more robust than any of the previous versions. And then I think Windows 10 is even better. I think Windows 10 is way better than any previous release. It seems more robust. The installer's better, it's faster, its driver support is better, driver installation is better. I just think Windows 10's okay. I think Windows 10's peak Windows, really. Rod says, nice, didn't know they did those external keyboards with USB cable. Yes, now, here's an interesting thing. So those keyboards that I'm talking about, if you do a search for like Lenovo ThinkPad USB keyboard, you'll find there's a few of them. There's the one that was the X220 style, and then they did one in the X230 that had no wrist rest, so it was narrower front to back. It was narrower than the X220 version, but similar. But it had the same keyboard layout and keyboard style, like chiclet style keys as the X230. So if you were to get a couple of screenshots on your display right now and look at the difference between the X220 keyboard and the X230 keyboard, those are what the two generations of USB keyboard look like. Now they also did a wireless version, so you can get a wireless ThinkPad keyboard, and I haven't got any of those. I've never had any of those wireless ones because I quite like the wired, because there's just no faff. You just plug it in and it works, especially for Raspberry Pis. Like, you want it to work out of the box from boot. You want it to just work, so you can fiddle around in like grub and stuff like that. Well, not grub, but in the console without having to pair a Bluetooth device or worry about wireless dongles being lost and stuff like that. So I prefer the wired ones. But interestingly, they are now quite rare, the wired ones. I've had people offer me ludicrous money for these ThinkPad wired keyboards. I've still got like 4, 5 of them. I think I sold one to someone, I think, because they were just desperate for one. And I was like, yeah, all right. But yeah, I've got a few that I keep for doing Raspberry Pi stuff. But yeah, they're really hard to get hold of now. It seems everyone who wanted one got one and keeps them, unsurprisingly. GPU teamwork makes the GPU dream work. Yeah, I know it's mind-boggling that there's like 2 entirely separate GPUs in this computer, and the chat that you just said that I just read off one display is being rendered by one GPU, and the game that I'm playing that's being streamed is being rendered by another GPU. Now that in and of itself, like, I can technically understand and I can explain how that works, right? Roughly. But if you'd have told me 10 years ago that this would be possible, I would not have believed you. On Linux. Also, I'm playing a Windows game. Right, I'm playing a Windows game at 60 frames a second, and it's being encoded and streamed to YouTube. And, yeah, and it's playing on a different GPU. I would never have believed that that would be possible 10 years ago. I mean, 10 years ago is only 2012. Maths, fail. So 2012 would have been 1204. Yeah, maybe 15 years ago I wouldn't have believed you. I might have believed you in 2012 that this might be a magical future that could happen. Oh god, it's one of those tracks where they turn the engine off. Blech. Bam. Oh god. Psycho liked Windows 7. Yeah, 7 was alright. The thing I didn't like about Windows 7, I really liked the classic look of Windows 95 and Windows 2000. Oh, jeez. I liked that that aesthetic, the grey, the battleship grey nature of Windows 95, that classic theme. And so when XP came out, I generally would use the classic theme. So it looked like Windows 95, right? Or Windows 2000. Oh my god, engine back. I don't know where I'm going. Oh god. Good, it's warm up. Chris says he likes Vista. I am pretty sure he is lying. Nobody liked Vista. I mean, I'm sure there were some people, you know. It was an operating system only its mother could love. Engine back on. Adam says, do you own any consoles? That's a great question. I do. I have. So as a youngster, I didn't have consoles as a kid. We couldn't afford them. So I didn't have a NES or a SNES or a Mega Drive. I played on my friends' ones, but I never had one until I had disposable income, and then I spent too much money on them. I had a SNES and I had an N64. In fact, I had and still own 3 N64s. I've got a UK one, a Japanese one, and a US one. And I also had a GameCube, and I have 3 of those as well. I have one that switches US. I think it switches between US and Japanese, and another one that's PAL UK. Yeah, I love the GameCube. It was a great. Oh, you idiot! It was a great console. Oh, come on. Ah, I can't get over the line. Yeah, so I was a bit of a Nintendo fan, and then we got the Wii, like everyone, like the entire world got a Wii. But I didn't follow up and get a Wii U or anything else, and I don't have a Switch. My son has a Switch, but I don't. But I ended up getting an Xbox, the OG Xbox Classic. I've got one of those that's been modded. And the mod that we put in, it was a mod you had to solder in, a little board that you put on, you clip it on and then solder some wires and stuff. It was a bit of a... There's no way I'm going to freewheel over that line, is there? No. And I upgraded the hard drive because I think the original OG Xbox came with... Mine was a Xbox Crystal, so it's one of those see-through plastic cases. And it had 10 gig hard drive, I'm going to say, I think. I upgraded it to 200 gig with this mod chip. and the mod chip allowed you to rip games. So you could buy a game and then put it in the drive and boot this firmware that would allow you to copy the contents of the game to an image, like an ISO image, inside the 200 gig hard drive. And once you've done that, you could put all your games back on the shelf and then load them like super fast off the hard drive. It was so cool. I still have it. It's in the loft. I should get it out and play with it sometime. It's one of my favorite games on the OG Xbox was Burnout 3, which this game reminds me of. Burnout 3 was just excellent. It was great music, and it was basically just crashing cars, you know, which is hugely entertaining. And then I bought an Xbox 360, I think, whatever the one after the OG Xbox was. I bought that. And yeah, my son has an Xbox One. I do like the name of this person. I had to make a channel to comment. It's brilliant. What are your thoughts on the Steam Deck? So, that's a great question. I have reserved one. I have also, well, actually, I've reserved 3. I reserved one under my daughter's account. So, you may remember the day that the Steam Deck was launched was a bit of a car crash in terms of Valve's website. I think they maybe underestimated demand. I'm not sure they could have estimated that demand. And their payment processing system screwed up. So I had 3 separate browser windows open. One logged in as my Steam account, one logged in as my son's Steam account, and one logged in as my daughter's Steam account. And my daughter's Steam account had £4 in credit, and mine and my son's had 0. And so with mine and my son's, I was trying to reserve one, trying to get one reserved using a credit card. And my daughter's, because I didn't have to go through the credit card processing problem, and so I could just pay with the £4 that was on her account, that worked. And so hers is due before mine and Sam's. I still went through with the order on, well, the pre-order on mine and my son's, but hers is due before ours. So yeah, I've got. I need to check and see when. It's the 25th, isn't it? Is it this Friday? 25th. It's supposed to go out. So yeah, I think I've been keen to watch other people's like reviews of the hardware and stuff. Oh, this is mental, this track. I think it's interesting how Linux nerds seem to think the Steam Deck is for them, and it's some kind of, you know, payoff for all the investment in Linux. And really, what it is it's a game console for everyone. Everyone who is a PC enthusiast gamer. I'm not sure how successful it will be, and I don't know if... my worry is that Valve will abandon it. That's my biggest worry. I feel like they're less likely to abandon this than they did with the Steam Link and the Steam controller. But it's still a worry. I mean, what does it mean if they abandon it? Like, every PC manufacturer abandons their old PCs. Like, you know, all these ThinkPads I've got, they are abandoned. Like, but once you get to a certain critical mass of a piece of hardware, it's possible for a community to build around it and build, you know, replacement hardware or new components and upgrade them and so on. And it seems like Valve are being pretty open about, you know, things like making the CAD files for the case available and stuff like that. That's very different to what some people are doing. I'm a big fan of the Steam controller, so I'm quite interested to see what it plays like on those devices. I think people are making too much of a big deal about the fact that it runs Linux. I don't think most people care. I think most people, they'll buy one, and then if a game doesn't work, there'll be some document somewhere that says, if your favorite game doesn't work, try this, try various versions of Proton. If that doesn't work, install Windows, and a bunch of people will just do that. Because like people who are into gaming and not into operating systems and not into software licensing are only into gaming. They just want to play a game, right? They're not interested in the freedom and the free software aspect, or the fact that it's running Kubuntu or KDE or whatever it's running, or Manjaro. They don't care. They want to play the game. But the purpose of buying a Steam Deck is to play games on the go. The purpose of buying a Steam Deck is not to support KDE. For most people. Yeah, okay, you and I may be different. Like, showing support to Valve in this endeavour, yeah, I maybe there's a bit of that. But also, I want to be able to play games on the sofa and not have to sit here in my office in order to play games. And so, or like I've got a flight and I want to play whatever game that I'm currently playing. I want to play on the move. Or while I'm waiting in my car to pick my son up at football training, I don't really want to stand outside. I want to sit in the car, but I don't just want to sit in the car and, do nothing, or sit on my phone and doom scroll Twitter. I'd rather play a game. And if I could play a game on Steam Deck, then that would be great. And I think a lot of people fall into that. I just want a good portable gaming device that's well supported and runs the games I want to play well. But I think the big tell will be getting that Proton support working well enough, and with people like what's his face from Epic saying Fortnite won't work and never will. It's like that kind of eats into the whole idea of playing all these things on the Steam Deck. Yeah, Psycho says that Gamers Nexus has done a couple of videos. He has. I think Steve and all the team over at Gamers Nexus are really setting a high bar for content creation or hardware, reviews and content creation on YouTube. Their stuff is so professional and so well made, and it's fun as well. And when Steve is having a bit of a go at hardware vendors, as he has done recently with Newegg, I can understand it, and it gives him more credibility, and he seems like a credible person. So yeah, I really like Gamers Nexus, but I'm interested to see what it actually plays like. Yeah, Chris says he's worried about Valve abandoning it. Is there much good gaming stuff on phones? Well, so the thing I play on phones, I actually really like location-based stuff. I still play Ingress. I tweeted about this the other day that I play Ingress, and one of my friends replied with the old meme, "That's a name I've not heard for many years." That thing. Yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's it. I couldn't remember his name. So yeah, I play Ingress because I've mentioned here before, I like open stuff, where you can just wander around, and I like games that are open as well. Hence, like Minecraft and Rust and stuff like that, where it's pretty open and you can just wander off in any direction and do something. The other thing I do, which is not really a game, but I treat it as a game because it has achievements, is Street Complete. It's an OpenStreetMap editor. It's not a game. It's an OpenStreetMap editor for mobile devices. So you launch it and you log in, and it logs you in with an OpenStreetMap account. And then when you launch it, it shows a map of the environment you're standing in. And there are these little bubbles on stuff. Like, there'll be a bubble pointing to a road. And you tap the bubble, and it asks you a question. And you just answer the question. So the question might be, for example, what type of surface is this road? Like, is it asphalt? Is it grass? Is it tarmac or concrete? Or what is it? And all you do is just answer the question. You just look at the ground and go, well, that. And it even shows you little pictures of the different surfaces. So if you don't know what the difference between concrete and asphalt is, you will learn because there's little pictures of what asphalt looks like and what concrete looks like. And so you literally just answer these questions, and you get little achievements that get unlocked the more of this you do. It's not just the road surface. There's like, what type of crossing is this? And does this bus stop have a trash can? And does this bus stop have lighting or a bench? And so you could just walk down the street and just answer questions. And then, if you go and have a look on OpenStreetMap, the website, and there is links within the app, you can see your edits being done, because there is just logging in as you to the OpenStreetMap using their API, and contributing. So the reason I do that is because what I did a lot of over the last few years is contribute to Google Maps. So whenever I'm walking down a street and there's not too many people about, because it looks a bit weird, I take photos of the businesses as I walk past. So whether they're shops or whatever it might be, I'll just take a photo of a business, and then you can upload it to Google Maps and assign it to that business. And you might be thinking, why are you contributing to Google Maps? Well, because I use Google Maps, right? I use it when I'm like trying to find places, and I know other people use it, and so I'm just trying to help make it better. And so by taking a photo of a business and uploading it, then when someone searches, if you go to Google Maps and search for pet shops, right, in your area, the results will have photos of those businesses. And a lot of those photos are contributed by people like me, who just walk down the street and take a photo. Sometimes it's the owner that contributes the photo, but oftentimes it isn't. Because often, like, a pet shop owner might not be tech savvy enough to upload their own photo. These days, people are a bit more savvy, but over the years, I've uploaded a bunch of these. And it's weird. I've been doing it for years. I did it in Portugal. I was on a family holiday many years ago. I say many years ago, like 8 years ago, something like that. And I took a photo of the inside of a supermarket. And I took a photo of like 4 or 5 of the aisles, the lanes in the supermarket, and just uploaded them all to Google Maps. And those are some of the most popular photos that it tells you how many people have viewed it. Those are some of the most popular photos that I've ever uploaded. Now, I don't get any payment for it. I don't get any credit. You get internet karma points because it gives you like little stars and awards for uploading and when lots of people view your photo. And that pleases me, that other people are seeing a photo and it's helping them make a decision about whether to go to that supermarket or another supermarket, or whether to go to, one garage or another. One of the most popular photos I have on Google Maps is a dentist near me. And it's not even my dentist. It's not even a dentist that I've ever been to. I took my car for its annual test. And I dropped it off, and they take all day, so I just left the car there and I walked home. And as I was walking home, I walked past a whole load of businesses. And one of them was this dentist. Now, it just looks like a normal end of terrace house in my local town. So I just took a photo of it and uploaded it. And it is like hundreds of thousands of people have seen this photo. And that's because it is the only photo of that dentist on Google Maps. If you go to Google Maps and look for that dentist, you'll see. It's just a not particularly well illuminated, cloudy day photo of the outside of the building. Because when people are looking for a business on Google Maps, or any map, they often want to see a photo of it so they know when they're in the right place. It's simple. So, I was doing a lot of Google Maps contributions and, getting all my stars and my points and all that, which are completely worthless, but fun, because I'm driven by internet karma. Someone suggested, have you ever considered contributing to OpenStreetMap? And I kind of felt guilty, thinking, I'm using my time to contribute to the man, the corporate entity that is Google, the Borg. I thought, well, how easy is it to contribute to OpenStreetMap? Can I do this? I can't take photos because you can't. I don't think you can upload photos to OpenStreetMap. They just don't have the capacity for that. But I discovered Street Complete. which allows you to contribute in a similar way that is super easy, and I get internet points for doing it. So, yeah, I do that. I contribute to OpenStreetMap via Street Complete. Highly recommend it. If you ever walk anywhere, like even just in your local town, do it. Install Street Complete. Make OpenStreetMap better for everyone. There you go. There's my sales pitch for Street Complete. It's quite a beautiful app as well. It's it's quite nicely made. So yeah, consider me a fan of Street Complete. Damn it. So yeah, in answer to your question, no, I don't actually play much in the way of games on my phone. My son has a whole bunch of games. He's got them categorized as online and offline, so that if we're ever like on a plane or somewhere where he has no internet connection, he just opens the offline games section and plays those. I've got to do 3 laps. Oh, this is the last lap, isn't it? Oh, nice landing. Oh, idiot. Clattering into the checkpoints. That's not going to help, is it? Adam says, I definitely prefer playing on console these days, so the Steam Deck would be a good gaming device for me. Yeah, though I have a Switch. I rarely bring it anywhere. That would require going outside. Yeah, the last couple of years have been tough for going outside. If you could get a GeForce Now running on Steam Deck, you could play Fortnite. Oh. Well, GeForce Now is available as an Electron app. I know that's not the words anyone wanted to hear. Nobody said hooray when I said that. I know. But it is available as a Linux desktop application. It's available as a snap, but also it's available probably as a deb, or it's almost certainly in the AUR, I would imagine. Yeah, just look for GeForce Now. I discovered it and snapped it, and it works. It's just a browser, So I don't see why it wouldn't work on the Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck is a PC, and PCs can run Electron applications. So, yes, that's an interesting point. You could play it, but then you'd be playing it remotely, and you definitely, well, I guess you need an internet connection for Fortnite anyway, because it's an online game. So yeah, that's a good point, Chris. You could play Fortnite via a streaming service. I mean, you could also stream it from your Windows PC if you've got... See, this is the other thing that I think the Stream Deck might be popular with, and I don't know how popular, but I'm pretty certain that Steam Deck is going to be people's second gaming computer, not their first. Yes, I get that some people can't afford a giant desktop computer with an enormous GPU and all that, but some people already have that. A lot of people already have that. A lot of people who have Steam already have that, and so I suspect a lot of people will use the Steam Deck to stream their games from another computer. And so, yeah, you can have Windows PC in one room and you sit on the sofa in another room with your Steam Deck streaming Fortnite. Chris has got a Wordle clone and Mine Test. You play Mine Test on mobile? I cannot get the hang of Mine asterisk games on mobile. I just can't. Oh, you can just use Chrome. Oh, that's handy. I didn't realise you could just use a browser to use GeForce Now. I thought it required an app. Well, I mean, Electron app, it is just a browser, isn't it? It is Chrome, basically. Chromium, whatever. Ugh. This is a wobbly track. Who made this? Oh, this is B01. Okay, this is the B tracks. I don't think I've played this one. Oh, this is just a warm-up, isn't it? I keep reminding myself that this is just a warm-up, Alan. This is just a warm-up. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could use GeForce Now to play Fortnite or any other game that isn't supported. Oh, GeForce Now doesn't work in Firefox. Oh, it's Chrome specific, is it? Wonder why. Is it proprietary codec nonsense or something else? One thing I would really like to do is really sort out all my retro games on a device. Whenever I watch, there's a couple of YouTubers who do a lot of retro stuff, and when they review devices, you see their retro games folder, and it has all the emulators, like every emulator you need, MAME, the N64 ones, and everything. I want to get all of that sorted, so I've got all of the emulators for all of the games that I like across all the platforms. I should spend a bit of time sorting that out. I really only play MAME. I don't, oh, actually, and I also play Spectrum games. Oh, thank you, Psycho. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I've mentioned this before, but the DS is glorious as a Sinclair Spectrum emulation device. I also have a Clockwork Pi, which is a handheld ARM device in the form factor of a Game Boy. So it's the kind of vertical form factor with a D-pad and a couple of buttons. I think it's got 4 buttons. But it's great. Runs Debian. And it's got a little custom front end, and it's got a little app store kind of thing, and there's a forum and people package stuff up. I've got a load of retro stuff on that, and that's just great. It's great having a Debian based console, basically. That's effectively what the Steam Deck will be anyway. I do wonder how many people will wipe the Manjaro install off and put something else on, and whether there'll be a resurgence in people making images. Not resurgence, but another bunch of people create, like XDA developers. You know how they build images for phones. Whether there'll be loads of people making weird, like Ubuntu spins or Pop OS spins or Debian spins just for the Steam Deck that contains, Steam and not much else, like rip out LibreOffice and all that. I know you can use it as a desktop, but I do wonder if people will put something other than Manjaro on it. I mean, what's the motivation for doing that? Putting something other than Manjaro on there? Like familiarity, but you're playing games on it. You're not using the package manager. You're not unless you want to put all your emulators on there, and you want to put software other than Steam on there, I guess, like itch.io and GOG and stuff like that. Maybe you want to put all of those on. You want to make that easier. It's a shame the GOG Galaxy isn't available for Linux, because as I understand it, that's just an Electron app as well. Could you run RetroPie on the Steam Deck? Well, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's all free software, so, and it's just a PC. Or Batacera, yeah, I would love to see Batacera on the Steam Deck. I think the problem is all the weird tweaks that Valve are having to do, Valve and their partners are having to do in order to get like the power management and display refresh perfect and all of that kind of stuff. I worry that anyone who creates a new distro for the Steam Deck is going to be always chasing whatever Valve's doing, which is pretty common anyway. Like when you look at XDA developers, they're constantly chasing the next version of Android. Same kind of thing, I guess. Ugh. Right, I think this might be my last track. And I should grab some lunch and go and start doing some work, I think. Oh, go on then. One more track. One more track. Yeah, I do like... I appreciate you mentioning Batasera. I do like that. I chucked it on an old laptop. I was surprised how well, you know, it was easy to install, easy to set up. I just dumped some ROMs in the right place and, yeah, it was easy. Oh my god, what's this? I don't think I know any of these tracks. Oh my god, yes I do. Uh-oh. Loop the loop. Yeah. Wow. Amazing, didn't hit the wall then. Okay, so it's not multiple laps. Good lord. Yeah. Batasera is very good. Feels like a giant waste to buy a Steam Deck and then use it just for retro games. Don't you think? Maybe, ow! Poo. But I wonder, can you dual boot that thing? Can you boot it off an SD card? So you could have like a Batasera micro SD card with all your ROMs and everything. And then just chuck it in and... I don't know, is that possible? I have a feeling it is. I have a feeling you can do that. You can boot off an SD card. I'm sure I've seen mention of that. Oh, my personal best. 3760. Okay, so I've got to shave 200 milliseconds off that in order to beat our podcast. And then I've got to shave another second. I've got to shave a second off to beat Wimpy. Oh my gosh. How am I going to do that? Don't hit the side is the answer. Oh, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? Oh, no, like that, I'm not. No, no. This is definitely not going to be a fast lap. Oh, or is it? No, it's not. Slower. Retro Arch is already in Steam. Not sure why you want Retro Pie. Hey, Esme. How you doing? Retro Arch. I cannot get my head around Retro Arch. I mean, I know the Clockwork Pie has Retro Arch on it, and there's this front end that means you're not actually interacting with Retro Arch really. But oh my god, I find Retro Arch impenetrable, absolutely impenetrable. Ah, bugger. Yeah, I just can't get it right. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So, yeah, I avoid Retro Arch. Unfortunately. Chris is asking, are you on any podcasts these days? No, not currently. You know, open to offers. I mentioned back at the start that there was a tweet asking for people to get involved to reboot the Ubuntu podcast. If you, I think there's a Twitter account called Ubuntu Friends. Go and find that tweet. They tweeted last night, like 12, 13 hours ago, something like that. Looking for people to create an Ubuntu podcast. Whoa, that was close. And that was not. Oh, dear me. That's the other thing I love about this. It reminds me of Burnout 3 on the OG Xbox. Is the ludicrous crashes. It's, you know, The physics in this game is mental. Like, flying off and spinning through the air, and the airtime you can get. Oh, thank you, Chris. That's very kind of you to say you enjoyed the podcast. Yeah, 13 years though. It's quite a long time to do a podcast. Well, very kind of you to say. We enjoyed making it. It was good fun until it stopped being good fun, and then it became a chore. And doing a podcast that's a chore is not as much fun anymore. So we stopped. Well, we all stopped for different reasons, but it's difficult when you when I left Canonical. I didn't really want to do any more of that anymore. I still use Ubuntu. I still tell people to use Ubuntu. I'm using Kubuntu here. KDE for the win. Designer NASA. Have you tried NixOS? No, I haven't tried NixOS. I know Wimpy has. He's fiddled with it. I just don't have the. This is the thing with. Oh my gosh, it's this one. Like, I've not insulted, but I've been somewhat dismissive of distro hoppers over the years because. Okay, this is a big topic. So, I used Red Hat Linux. My first distro was Red Hat Linux. Ooh, corner. And then after Red Hat Linux, I was frustrated and I switched to Debian. My friend Hugo in my local Linux user group said, "Oh, you should try Debian," and I did. I think that would have been back like 18 years ago. I switched to Debian, and then when Ubuntu came out, there was something wrong with Debian I was getting annoyed with. I know what it was. I had a webcam, and every time there was a kernel update, I had to keep recompiling the driver for my webcam, and it used to really annoy me. And it was a licensing problem, and so it couldn't be fixed in Debian. And so my friend Hugo, again, said, "Hey, you might like this Ubuntu thing that I hear has just come out," which was in 2004. And I switched to Ubuntu in 2004. And at that time, I wasn't an employee of Canonical. I was just some guy on the internet using Linux. And so I went from Red Hat, having used that for a couple of years, to Debian, using that for a couple of years, and then Ubuntu. And I've used Ubuntu solidly since then. Oh, dear me. Oh, dear. And I've got no motivation to switch. There's nothing that makes me want to switch to another distro. And I get that for some people, distro hopping is a job. Like they're reviewing distros, they're trying things out, they want to see what all these different distros have to offer, and they're making videos or they're making podcasts. I get it. I get that some people are like that. But also, I feel like sometimes people need to just stop switching and use a thing. Because all the while you're switching, you're not actually using it. And the other thing that I get frustrated, oh God, I'm getting on my soapbox here, is Linux users who don't contribute back, who don't do anything other than when a distro goes wrong, they switch to another distro. It's like, oh no, the video driver doesn't work. Right, let's find a distro where the video driver does work. And then the Office suite breaks. All right, okay, well, let's get rid of that distro and let's find a distro where the Office suite does work. And it's like, oh my God. And these people never file any kind of issue. I'm making mass generalizations here, I know. Never actually contribute to anything. And so there's no opportunity for those things to ever get any better because they just move on. They're like, oh no, I didn't bother filing a bug. I assume someone else would have filed it. Or they must already know about it because it's so badly broken. You'd be surprised if 100 people all say this thing is broken and all they do is tell their friends it's broken and never tell the developer of the software. How is the developer ever going to fix it? They won't even know that it's broken. And just posting a tweet to say this thing is broken isn't good enough. You need to file a bug, get on the bug tracker, let the developer know so they can fix the thing, right? It's been a bee in my bonnet for like 10 years. And so, yeah, I get frustrated with distro hoppers who don't settle down and, build a relationship, do a bit of commitment, and get stuff done and contribute back. And contributing doesn't mean, oh, I've got to go and learn Rust, or oh, I have to go and learn Go and Python and GTK. No, you can contribute to a distro without ever learning how to code. I mean, look at me. I can't write code. And I managed. Such that they employed me. Like, can you believe that? They actually hired me. Madness. Absolute madness. Oh my god. How am I going to get out of here? Look, I'm stuck. Stuck. Ah. Oh, clip through the world. Right, I'll get off my high horse now. Chris says, podcasts are really hard to make. Much more difficult than people think. Well, I'd add a word to that. I'd say good podcasts are really hard to make. Yeah, anyone can crank out a podcast, but doing it reliably, consistently, and coming up with content and not just... it is hard. You're right. It is hard. And that was part of it. It was too much work. Partly why we stopped. It's just... It's extra stuff we have to do over and above our jobs. Oh my god, have I not finished? Oh, I've finished once. God, this track is terrible. Or it's me. Psycho's first distro was Slackware. Yeah, I think the first time I ever heard about Linux was I was working at a college and a student came in and they were talking about it and he had a pile of floppy disks he was sharing with someone. It might well have been Slackware. And they were sharing their experience and he said, oh yeah, Linux is where it's at. And I was like, don't be stupid. Windows is where it's at. Such an idiot. So one person says, for me, it's not about changing distro, but changing desktop environment. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see the point in that either. I mean, I've mostly... I don't know. What's the average amount of time I spend on a desktop environment? Let's have a think. So in the early days, I tried a few out. I know I've got some screenshots from the late 90s and early 2000s of me running XFCE. Certainly used that. GNOME 2, when Ubuntu came out, I was using GNOME 2 solidly because that's what it came with. So that was a few years. And then Unity came out, so I used that. So yeah, I did switch a couple of times. I certainly did myself. And in the past 6 years, I've used GNOME for a couple of years, KDE for a couple of years. Yeah, I'm back on KDE, GNOME, KDE. So, yeah, I spent a good couple of years on each distro. I don't know. Does that make me a distro swapper? I don't. Distro hopper? I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm projecting and actually I'm a distro hopper. I'm using Kubuntu at the moment and I'm very happy with it. The Kubuntu Backports PPA that Rick Mills maintains is amazing. So I get the latest version of KDE. I don't need to run Arch because I'm running Kubuntu. I get a rock solid stable kernel most of the time. And I get all the latest KDE stuff thanks to Rick Mills and his amazing PPA. Sweet. So yeah, Kubuntu for the win. KDE for the win. Also, KDE developers are lovely people. Fact. Having met them, they're lovely. Chris says, I switch a fair bit for a while. I've been hovering around the Ubuntu Debian-based distros. I'm pretty settled there now. Yeah, are you running Pop now, Chris? I think you're running Pop. A lot of people switched from Ubuntu to Pop. I say a lot. Some. Some vocal people, some enthusiasts, some people with a public profile switched from Ubuntu to Pop OS. I can see why. Yeah, totally see why. It's quite popular, isn't it? Pop is popular. Oh, I steered. I shouldn't have steered. Oh, man. Psycho's now on Ubuntu Mate. Yes, Ubuntu Mate is awesome. I would love a podcast or show that goes through Reddit Linux questions or something. Oh, my gosh. So, that's an interesting thing. Like, sidebar. I use TikTok. When I'm bored, I'll open TikTok. While I'm waiting for some potatoes to boil in the kitchen or whatever. Or, while I'm waiting in a queue or something, I might open TikTok and watch a couple of videos. And it's interesting, and this isn't just a TikTok thing. People make these videos on YouTube. There's a fair number of people whose content is reading stuff out from Reddit. Like, people will post. There are subreddits for true crime, and there are subreddits for Ask Reddit, and there are subreddits for ask relationship advice and stuff like that. And people will create an entire podcast or a YouTube video channel based around reading those out. And I don't know if I've never really watched any of them. I know they exist because I've seen clips of them on TikTok and YouTube. I don't know if they then discuss the answers or discuss their own answers to those questions. But it seems easy. Like, it's ready-made content. Somebody else... That's one of the biggest problems with making a podcast is the content. Coming up with something new and fresh and interesting to discuss for the listeners. And something for them to engage with, right? Now, if you just go to a subreddit that has a lot of people asking for advice, like relationship or... like you say, the suggestion you gave was Linux questions, right? If you just go through one of those subreddits and literally just read one of them out, I mean, it helps if you're... it helps if you've got a relatively nice voice. I don't know what nice voice means, but you know what I mean. If you haven't got an irritating voice, then it probably makes life a little bit easier because people might find your voice soothing and want to listen to you. I'm absolutely not fishing for compliments here, so you don't feel compelled to. But if there's ready-made content that all you do is read it out, people will subscribe because people don't necessarily discover subreddits and they don't necessarily discover this content, and sometimes they just want something to listen to. Like, I know there are things I listen to at bedtime, podcasts I listen to, which there we go. I'm not particularly interested in the content. It's just words, and the people have nice voices, and I just listen to them and go to sleep. So, yeah. There is room for podcasts where somebody else makes the content. Present Arms. Hello. How are you doing? Haven't seen you for a while. Yeah, use that. That is a very good point. Use what you're comfortable with. Yeah, totally. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm using KDE because I'm comfortable with it. I was using GNOME, but I found the performance to be pretty terrible, and so I switched. I know other people have the opposite. They're like, oh no, KDE is slow and bloated, and KDE blah blah blah. Okay, this is the important thing to take away from this is I don't care what you run on your computer. Literally don't care. Doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't. It's like telling me what fridge you own. It doesn't help me in any way. Like, you own a Bosch fridge. Great. I hope it keeps your stuff cold. But I don't. It doesn't materially affect my life in any way. Chris says, "Oh my god, the chat is about to go off the screen. I might have to stop and read some of it." So I go through desktop environments once a year to check for improvements. Mostly stick with KDE. Yeah, I've booted distros in VMs like QuickEmu and VirtualBox and stuff like that, just to see what they look like and see if anything's changed. See what the installer looks like is quite interesting, like how distros have changed their installers over the years, and some have coalesced around Calamares, and some have written their own. Like Pop and Elementary have their own. Manjaro has their own. How do you pronounce that? Goraduno. Is this stream a regular thing now? Also, hi. I don't know. Is twice regular? CDE from the win from Present Arms. Yeah. Now look. I think the only time I used CDE ever was about 10 years ago. I used to work for Xerox, the paper people. They also do some other stuff. There's parking meters that are made by Xerox. Weird. Anyway, I used to work for them, and I worked on their SAP systems. And they ran SAP with Oracle databases on Red Hat Linux. And sometimes we would have to VNC into the servers in order to run some graphical installer, like an SAP or an Oracle installer or upgrade or something, and it was a GUI. And so we would VNC over SSH. We would tunnel VNC over SSH into these Red Hat servers in order to run the GUI. And they were running CDE. That's, I think more modern versions were using GNOME Desktop or GTK2. But yeah, CDE. I was surprised to see CDE until relatively recently, which was fun. Oh man, running VNC over SSH was hilarious. We used to run like long-running installs and upgrades, and if you started the VNC from your laptop and it took hours, you'd be like, oh god, I've got to stay here at work until this finishes. Like, it could take all day and all night. But the smart ones would do like an SSH tunnel from another machine on the network and VNC tunnel from there, and then you could reconnect to it from home. So you'd like VPN in and then reconnect to the VNC server. So you could sit at home and monitor this graphical process running on a Red Hat server somewhere in a data center. I couldn't even tell you where the data center was. No idea. We never knew. But yeah, those were the days. I always found it a bit weird running graphical stuff on a server. Like knowing that there's this Oracle GUI thing running on a box somewhere that's also running loads of server software. I always felt a little bit icky about it. Yannick says hello. Hello, Yannick. How are you doing? Present Arm says they're running PC Linux OS OpenBox. Yeah. I don't think I've ever tried PC Linux OS. Grubs says, Popey. Like a voice worth being featured in a personal assistant, says Yannick. Yeah, well, yeah. Chris says, my issue with Reddit is its discoverability of things I like. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Once you learn about a good subreddit, like, I try and mix it up a bit. I went through a phase of being subscribed to a bunch of subreddits which were a bit negative because they were pointing and laughing at people, and it was funny. Oh, look what this person did! Ha, silly idiot. And after a while, I realised that actually that's not kind, and so I stopped. And I mostly look at positive related stuff. There's a subreddit called Make Me Smile or something, or Made Me Smile. And it's got generally like good news stuff and, cute cat videos and stuff like that. Because the world's got enough negativity and rubbish in it. Try and look at some positive stuff. However, there is one that I'm still in, that I still subscribe to, and that's the Herman Cain Award subreddit, where they point out the people who post on social media, their medical knowledge, and then it turns out they don't have that medical knowledge, if you know what I mean. So what I meant with the Reddit thing is more answering the questions, in a way that most people can understand. Okay. Yeah, I would probably do Ask Ubuntu. Like, there's a video from months ago where I did a bit of Ask Ubuntu, and I live streamed it while I was doing it, trying to answer people's questions. That was great fun. The problem with Linux Questions is it's very Slackware oriented, and because it's their official forum, right? But there are questions about other stuff. I like Jeremy a lot, but I don't understand why people still use Linux Questions. I think it's it's been around so long that so many people use it. But I think mostly it's Slackware people. He probably knows better than me. Although they did a distro vote on Linux Questions, and Ubuntu came out top, and Slackware came out like second, I think. It's unsurprising, given it's the official Slackware forum for questions. I may be wrong, but that's what I believe. Popey is my favourite TrackMania streamer. I think I'm your only TrackMania streamer, Chris. Thank you. But yeah, I think there is maybe there is room for answering Linux questions. Yeah, maybe there is. One of the problems with Reddit is in some places it's hugely toxic. And Linux people, the Linux in inverted commas community, twit, are very good at telling people you're doing it wrong, you're holding it wrong, you're using the wrong thing, that's the wrong distro, use something else. And so it's very hard to find a friendly place where you can ask a question and get a solid, great answer, which actually solves your problem and doesn't try and coerce you. Oh God, why are you using Ubuntu? Like someone posts a question that says, I can't get my network card working on Ubuntu, or whatever it is, doesn't matter. And the first answer is, oh, you should be using Manjaro. It's like, what? Oh God. It's like posting to a car forum, car analogy alert, where someone says, oh, my BMW sometimes doesn't start when it's cold. Oh, well, he should have bought a Mercedes. Oh, well, he should have bought a Skoda or something. It's like, well, it's not an appropriate answer. Take your opinions and shove them, because the right answer is, yes, this is a known problem, and here is the part you need to buy, or no, you're right, they do that. That's a natural inherent thing, and so has come up with a hack that fixes that. That's the right answer. But the problem is the Linux community is full of terrible opinions from people who are woefully underqualified to answer the questions. But the problem is that those answers are right up there with everybody else's. Woohoo! And so they look valid. Which is why sites like Ask Ubuntu and Stack Exchange are good, because the right answer, in theory, gets bubbled up because people vote it up. And someone posts a rubbish answer like, oh, you should use Pop OS. That gets downvoted because that's not the answer to the question. The question wasn't, what distro shall I use? It was, my network card doesn't work, right? And I think it would drain me if I was sat trying to answer questions on something like Stack Exchange. Because I would, not Stack Exchange, on Reddit. Because I would just see all these answers from clueless idiots not reading the question and suggesting, oh, well, what you need to do is switch to KDE 3. That's your answer. It's like, no, it's not. You idiot. I think some of these are trolls. Like, every other answer is by the way I run Arch. It's like, oh, well done. Good for you. God, I've turned a bit negative. I should, let's turn that around. Say something positive. This is relatively good. Lappy says, then completely screws it up. Well done. Present Arms says, when I started, you had a choice of CDE, Window Maker, Afterstep, KDE, and no. You are showing your age, sir. Do you know, my very first experience of Linux, I think, was Coral Linux. I think. It's a bit of fuzzy memory. You know how memory gets when you're old. And the I got it with a book, a CD. It was a book I bought at a bookshop, and it was Coral Linux, and it was a huge book. I did not read the book. I got the CD from the back cover, and I installed it on a spare computer. I had two computers at the time. One was a computer made by a company called DAN, D-A-N, and it was a Pentium P200. And the other computer I had was a Pentium 2, a slot 1 Pentium 2 P400. And the P400 ran, I guess, Windows of some kind. DOS and Windows, maybe. And the so this would have been 1995, thereabouts. And the P200 was like a, spare computer I could do stuff with. And I installed Coral Linux on it. And I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never touched Unix. This was all completely new to me. And I looked through the book, and it was mind-blowing. And I thought it was really cool. And I was able to plug a network cable between the two computers and VNC from the Windows computer to the Linux computer, and I was like, mind blown. This is amazing. And I was able to type command. I think I only had one monitor at the time, which is why I did the VNC thing, because I didn't have two displays, one for each computer. And I remember the display I had. It was an Ilyama monitor, 17-inch monitor from Ilyama. I think it's pronounced Ilyama. Yes, made me smile, and wholesome memes are good subreddits, good feel subreddits. Yeah, watching Ask Ubuntu. So, yeah, go back and have a look at my other video, the one where I did Ask Ubuntu. I'm not sure I would do that again, because, you know, I've moved on from Ubuntu a bit. I do still reply to people sometimes when they have Ubuntu-related questions. But Ask Ubuntu is, I love it. It's fantastic. There was some controversy when we set it up from people on in other communities, like, how dare you use this thing, and why are you pointing people at Ask Ubuntu? You should be pointing people at the forums, and why are you pointing people here? You should point them at IRC. And it's like, well, actually, for normal users, Ask Ubuntu is a better experience than IRC, and it's a better experience than vBulletin forums. People got really tribal when we set up Ask Ubuntu. But Ask Ubuntu survived. There's a whole bunch of moderators who, you know, are very good at getting rid of rubbish answers and editing answers and coaching people who are giving answers to, you know, continue to give answers. It's a nice community over there. It's a nice community built around support, like providing free community support for a popular distro. It's quite funny when people turn up. I say funny. It's not funny at all. When people turn up in various Ubuntu support places, whether it's IRC, the forums, Ask Ubuntu, whatever, and say, I'm running Ubuntu, how do I do this thing? Or this thing is broken, how do I fix it? And you dig a bit deeper and you ask them for something, you know, some details about the system, and they say, oh yes, I'm running Pop OS. And it's like, not Ubuntu. Or they say, I'm running Linux Mint. And it's like, nope, not Ubuntu. And people get really pushy. That yes, it is Ubuntu. It's just Ubuntu, like, slightly differently, and they want technical support for their thing. And this is, when you make a distro, this is why I'm firmly in the camp of people should stop making distros. When you make a distro, you're going to have users, and those users need support. Are you going to be there supporting them, or what? And if you make an Ubuntu-based derivative, right? What are you going to do? You're just going to throw your users at us, at Ubuntu, because you built using some bits of Ubuntu? Or are you going to tell people to go to your branded and staffed support avenue? It used to really get my goat that we get Linux Mint people turn up in the Ubuntu IRC channel and say, I'm running Ubuntu, and here's my problem. And you'd say, well, that's not Ubuntu. And then, you know, some people get really annoyed that we would turn them away. It's like, well, it's almost Ubuntu, and this is a problem on Ubuntu as well. Okay, well, run Ubuntu and then come back and ask us the same question. Sometimes people would go away, reconnect, and say, okay, now I'm running Ubuntu, and you know clearly they're not. They're just saying it to try and get support. And that's why I think it's a little disingenuous, because some of the distros like to have it both ways. They like to be able to say, no, we're differentiating ourselves, we are not Ubuntu, when 99% of the packages in the distro are ones built and hosted by Ubuntu, right? We are not Ubuntu, we are different, but we're alike enough that we don't have to provide support. Somebody else can do that. That is disingenuous and dishonest, and I don't like it. So yeah, that's fun. Oh my gosh, so much chat. It's been years since I had a hardware issue on Linux, says Chris. Yeah, the fact that I now have to think hard about what hardware issues I've had is good. Adam says, game collecting subreddits are awful too. Asked folks about newer disc games not containing the whole game. Just got a load of irrelevant replies about cheap games. Yeah. Is it human nature? Is it human nature that people are just really bad at empathizing with the problem that someone actually wants to solve, and instead want to solve a different problem? Like, my problem is my display is the wrong resolution. Well, what you really want to do is change distro. Well, that's not the solution. My problem isn't I'm running the wrong distro. My problem is the screen resolution is wrong. So this is why corporate environments have like frontline support with scripts and people who can keep track and have customer relationship management systems that keep track of the stuff people are running. So that, they can say, well, you're running version 1 of this thing, that's fixed in version 2, and we know that because we have data about you. When some random turns up in an IRC channel and says, I'm running Ubuntu and this doesn't work, and you have to start asking questions and dig a bit deeper and get some more information out of them, it can be a little frustrating. But these people are volunteers who are providing support. They're not paid to do it. Anyone on Ask Ubuntu, even the people who are working for Canonical, those people are almost certainly 100% not being paid to provide answers on Ask Ubuntu. I don't recall anyone ever having on their to-do list at Canonical answer questions on Ask Ubuntu. They'll have software development things, and there might be a generic engage with the community kind of task, and they interpret that as I should answer questions on Ask Ubuntu. But yeah, it's a volunteer run thing. People who do the most damage in technical circles are those who know just enough to think they know it all, constantly giving incorrect answers and shouting down correct ones. Yeah, totally, Adam, you are right. And one of the problems we have in the Linux community is we're really bad at getting rid of bad people. If you work in technical support as a job, and it's your paid job, and you're really bad at it, and you give customers the wrong answers, the wrong solutions, then you'll almost certainly get some training, improved documentation on the good end, and on the bad end, you get fired, right? Or moved to a different role. But in the Linux community, we allow these individuals with insufficient knowledge to hang around. Now, part of that is because we're a collective, we're a community, we're not a corporation, and so if we kicked everyone out who ever said something wrong, we'd have very few people left. So, I think the best thing to do is to educate these people and let them know. That's what we try and do in the Ubuntu IRC channel. If you ever go in there, some people viscerally hate the Ubuntu IRC channel because people will ask questions and then the moderators will say, well, no, you can't answer that here. You've got to go to Linux Mint forum or something. Or they'll say, they'll use a bot command to give you a boilerplate reply that says, go to this link, here's how you get your network card working, rather than engage them in a conversation. And it's like, well, everyone's got a limited amount of time on planet Earth. This support person is just giving you an efficient answer. And we should educate people that they can give those efficient answers and lean on those efficient answers. And if you've got a better efficient answer, submit it, for inclusion so that other people can use it. And we should be able to say to people who are giving wrong answers, that's not the answer we give around here. Here's a link to what the right answer is. In future, please give this answer. Not for groupthink and Borg mentality, but because we figured out what the right answer is. This is the right answer. So in this situation, if it's not the right answer and we need to tweak it, fair enough. But that training and that education also takes time. And if someone has said, okay, I'm going to spend an hour on IRC giving support, or I'm going to spend an hour on Ask Ubuntu giving support. I don't know what proportion, but it could be 50-50. You could be spending 50% of your time actually giving support, and the other 50% of your time helping other people to support in the future. And you need this to be sustainable, because some of us are getting old, and some of us are going to die soon. And are there going to be younger people? Okay, let's not be quite so morbid. Some of us are going to retire soon, and some of us are going to move on from the Linux community. And are there people, young people, new blood, that we're educating to take over? I don't think there are. Adam says, I went to the Ubuntu IRC many years ago to see if anyone had a solution, and then realised IRC sucks, and I promptly left. Well, yeah, okay. It's fair. I mean, I think it's one of those things that once you've become accustomed to IRC and it's a thing you use, it's just a tool in the box. Yeah, it sucks in some ways, but I used to be a massive fan of mailing lists, mailman mailing lists, and I hated forums. Forums sucked, especially when, like, V-Bulletin style, where you've got multiple pages, and, like, on page 1, someone asks a question, and then the answer is buried on page, like, 93, and you've got to scroll all the way to the end, and then in the middle, the original person has replied and said, oh, no, wait, I meant this, not that. And they don't edit the original question, so you have to read 93 pages of nonsense in order to fully understand the question and then maybe get the answer, right? It's just awful. And so when Discourse came along and Ask Ubuntu, I was like, yes, this is the way to do it. And so I don't use mailing lists anymore. I'm pretty much sold that Discourse is the way forums should be. And I will not entertain using other forum software like V-Bulletin or PHP, whatever, BB or whatever they are, because they're just rubbish. Discourse has solved the forum user interface and user experience, and it's brilliant. And I guess Discord has fixed the IRC one. Gorundu says, time to run NixOS for 100% reproducibility. I don't know that I care about reproducibility enough. I like the fact that Yannick is actually watching my my times and pointed out that I had a PB. Oh, shit. I was trying too hard not to hit the post, but I hit the post. So easily done. I think about 3 tracks ago I said this is the last track, didn't I? And then just carried on because you lot kept asking good questions or making good points. So, nobody ask any questions, nobody make any good points, and I'll go away. If you keep asking questions and keep making good points, I'll stick around. Oh my god, I'm going to have to go soon. I've been online for 2 hours. Yeah, that was not a good run. Right, okay, let's try and get a good run in. Yes, focus on what's important, Yannick. Which is not IRC. Right. Keep hitting that corner there. Can't get around that one. Oh shit, and again. Down a bit. Damn it. Adam says, when trying to teach folks at work how to find answers themselves, the issue of forums having out-of-date misleading answers is a thorn in my side. Yeah, totally. So, George Castro, who was one of the people instrumental in setting up Ask Ubuntu back in the day, like whenever it was, a decade ago, he gave a lightning talk at an Ubuntu Developer Summit one year, and it was about deleting stuff. And he was encouraging everyone to go and delete wiki pages. because they're wrong and have got out-of-date information on them. So you should delete them. Like some really old wiki page that talks about Endis wrapper on Ubuntu 4.04 or 4.10 or 6.06 or something like that. What's the point in keeping that information around? Someone is going to stumble on that and use it, and it'd be wrong, and then break their install. So he encouraged people to just delete, like 5 a day, eat 5 vegetables a day. Instead of doing that, go around and delete 5 wiki pages a day. Which I think is great. Yeah, totally. Delete stuff. Archive.org has probably got it, and we could probably get it back from a backup if it was really needed. But chances are, if a page hasn't been looked at, hasn't been edited for a long time, and talks about a release of Ubuntu that we don't even support anymore, yeah, totally delete the page. Get rid of it. I don't know how many people did that. Actually went around deleting pages. The problem comes when there's third-party like forums and wikis and documentation on other sites. There's nothing you can do about that, really. You can try and contribute fixes, but often it's very difficult. Okay, was that 5? Yes, that's 5. That'll do. Thank you, Psycho. Thanks again. I think that's it for today. Do you know I said this was a don't eat vegetables, delete wikis. I said at the start this was a chat and coffee. I've got a full mug of coffee here that I haven't even touched because I've been busy chatting. So thank you, everyone. Thankfully, my mug keeps it relatively warm. Right. I hope everyone has a good Monday. Have a good President's Day, those in the US. And I'll see you again next time I do one of these. No idea when that is. If you like it, let me know in the chat below. If there's something in particular you want me to do, like people have mentioned playing some retro games instead of this TrackMania, happy to do that. But yeah, I'll see you again at the next one of these. Thanks, everyone. Like I say, have a great day. See you later. Bye.